Phylogeny is a history of a species or a group of species throughout evolution, and this classifies diversity and also determines the relationships between species that are living and extinct throughout evolution. And taxonomy identifies, names, and classifies organisms. So to the right over here, there is a phylogenetic tree of the infertile canis, or the wolf species, and you can see from 3.5 million years ago to 150,000 to 300,000 years ago, there's already a big change in the genetic makeup of the wolf. Just by looking at their coat or their fur, you can see the change in the color already. Formed 4.6 billion years ago, and it had a high temperature due to meteorites constantly bombarding it. And due to this, there was no life possible until 3.9 billion years ago. And the Earth's environment had little to no oxygen and was thick with water vapor, but the water vapor actually cooled the Earth's temperature and then condensed to form oceans. And the beginning of life happened 3.5 to 2 billion years ago, and there was these simple single-celled organisms called prokaryotes, and they dramatically changed Earth's biosphere. And then eukaryotes evolved from prokaryotes 2.1 billion years ago, and they're much more complex organisms. But multicellularity didn't happen in organisms until 1.5 billion years ago. What happened was that when the Earth thawed, multicellularity expanded as colonies, and then it divided into life functions and eventually led to the evolution of tissues, organs, and organ systems. So around 20 million years ago, there was a huge explosion in animal phyla called the Cambrian explosion. And it was a large explosion in a simultaneous and sudden diversity of species. And something else that has impacted life throughout history have been mass extinction events, such as the oxygen revolution, which happened 2.2 to 2.7 billion years ago. And what happened was the cyanobacteria began to photosynthesize, and it increased the production of oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. And by doing so, it killed off most of the anaerobic unicellular organisms that were unable to withstand this sudden change in the atmosphere, and as a result, it opened up many ecological niches. So apes. There's a very common misconception that humans evolved from apes, but we actually diverged from them and evolved from a common ancestor. The definition of evolution is a change in a population's genetic makeup over time, and it's responsible for the appearance of diversity on Earth. So Charles Darwin came up with this idea of natural selection. And basically, Darwin's theory says that those who are the most fit and had the genetics that would best benefit them in the environment that they live in would survive, and that those who didn't would not. So I think climate change is good. Burning of fossil fuels and the creation of greenhouse gases, the Earth's temperature has increased, and there's also an increased number of droughts, like the ones that have happened in California. And there's also coastal flooding, heat waves, which can cause heat stroke and is very dangerous. And then humans are also altering the environment. Over the past 400 years, 1,000 species have gone extinct, and once these organisms die off, they cannot reappear until 5 to 10 million years later because they need this time to recover. So that is all I have.